Welcome to the Voice of San Diego podcast in partnership with News Radio 600 Kogo. I am Scott Lewis, the CEO and editor-in-chief at Voice of San Diego, and he's been searching through the Epstein Files for San Diegans, and he found some interesting ones. He's reporter Jakob McWhinney.
How's it going, Scott?
Was I in there?
I did actually look you up.
Did you?
I looked like everybody I know up.
Yeah.
Luckily, I don't know many very famous people.
Jacob's like Control F.
Yeah.
That's exactly
like
Scott
Bill
Lewis.
Gates is like, there's one reporter in San Diego just killing it. Will Huntsberry. Have you read him? No.
Yeah. It's an interesting. I mean, it's sort of this document dumpster diving, if you will, and it's kind of once you start to open it up, it really is pretty crazy what you find in there.
Yeah, we'll get into one person you did find in there in a second, and she will be watching the Bad Bunny concert with some sort of sport happening before and after it. She's Andrea Sanchez Villafana. What's up, Sanchez?
Hey, Lewis.
How are you?
Good. I'm excited.
For
Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny. Benito, right?
El Conejo Malo.
That song he's got that everybody's singing is really catchy, but it's super sad.
Yeah.
Like, I should have taken more photos while I had you. I should have given you more hugs and kisses while I could.
Yeah.
And people are like patching it up with pictures of like their dead relatives and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's really sad.
I'm like dying. I'm like crying every time.
That
It's like, this is a jam, but crying.
That's sort of the standard of like the greater Latino community music, right? You think about mariachi, it sounds like polka, but talking about how your heart has been just torn asunder.
Right, some
Right.
woman just betrayed you, and now you're like
hold on.
drinking tequila.
Like Bad Bunny though has all been like the most raunchy stuff for like a decade. Like, I've got all these women, I'm the best or whatever. But now he's like
Facts.
touching people's hearts, and he's the biggest star in the world.
When I went to Puerto Rico, I was super bummed because he performed this like random show on top of a gas station like 2 days before we got there. And it was like a couple blocks away from the Airbnb that we were staying at. So I was like, oh man.
Well, we will all be excited to watch
His concert where people
and Green
will be,
Day.
Sure.
I still don't. I do not understand that. I don't understand how that's going to work.
It's like Shakira and Jennifer Lopez.
But
If
Shakira
one
and
of them-
Jennifer Lopez made sense.
But
and they were good.
Imagine them trying to sing Boulevard of Broken Dreams with like those, reggaeton drums.
It might be
sounds
awesome.
Horrifying.
Well, we'll see how it comes out. I'm excited. Coming up on this show this week, get ready for a new mayor. One county supervisor is considering pushing reforms that may include electing a county mayor, not a city mayor. So there'd be a mayor and a mayor. Fun.
Yeah.
We'll explain. And the teachers union has picked its candidate for an open school board seat in San Diego. Is that race now over? Jakob McWhinney will provide the analysis. All that and more coming up.
But you can show your support for Voice of San Diego and looking great while doing it by shopping some of our merch at our store.
Where did Mariana saw somebody at? Where? Like a rodeo? No,
it was a
Monster Truck.
Monster Truck event. Our City Hall reporter went to a Monster Truck event, and someone sitting in front of her was wearing a Voice of San Diego shirt.
Yeah, and half of the team was like, "Oh my gosh, you should ask him who he is and how he found the show." And I was like, no, you got to be we
Yeah,
like it's just a normal thing to see out there.
Everyone wears
at the
one
Monster
of those.
Truck rally.
It does seem like a place that our listeners and readers would end up.
At a Monster Truck rally?
I think so,
Yeah.
yeah.
The second date I took my wife on was a motocross, super motocross freestyle where they're jumping and doing all the tricks and stuff. And I had big bags of sand in my truck to keep it from slipping on the ice. And somebody stole them. That's Utah. That's hardcore Utah. There, your bags of sand are prized enough to steal.
Do you think they needed more, or I guess less traction at the motocross rally? Somebody saw it and were like, "Oh, this is great."
No. They stole my sand.
I know. Do you think they needed it for the motocross event?
No, they needed it to weigh their own truck down.
Oh my gosh.
Or to protect from flooding, but there wasn't any flooding.
Diabolical.
Yeah.
You think Ashley was like, "Oh God,
I'm
on a date with this
my
guy.
second
He
date.
can't even keep his
This guy can't
sandbag."
keep his sand. How can you keep me happy?
Well, she came along.
Well, anyway, if you want to buy anything, you can go to vosd.org/shop. go to your favorite monster truck rally, your favorite WWE event. I don't know, vosd.org/shop, decked out in all of our swag.
We did get some donations this week we wanted to recognize. So first up, Deborah sent in a donation. Thank you. She said, Matt Scraby, our producer of the show, responded to my email about safe parking lots, and soon I read Voice of San Diego's article answering that issue. It was nice to be heard and that reporters followed up on my concern. Thank you, and keep up the good work. And she sent a little money. That's the model. Mm-hmm. Just do it.
Between Matt and Mariana, they got some money for us. Maybe we should split it and take them up for coffee.
Get them a latte.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you, Matt. And we'll talk about the answer that we did get about that question. But
Joyce also sent some money our way. Thank you so much, Joyce. She wrote, I really appreciate the in-depth work you do. We're all about the depths. We jump in, find out we're out of our depth, then try to, I don't know, bring the depth to you.
Yeah.
Does that work? Did that work?
Sort of.
Yeah. And Astrid says, independent journalism and reporting local news is important. I also like your Instagram reels. Sorry I can't give more. Hey, anything helps.
And that's why Bella's not with us today. She is working on a new vertical video.
Oh,
yes.
I thought you were going to say because Astrid didn't give us more.
Yeah, come on.
No.
Step it up, Astrid.
No, thank you for your support.
Yeah, every bit helps.
And a reminder, we're putting this show now on the YouTube, a local web video platform.
Yeah. Not as popular as our website,
no.
But somewhat.
YouTube/Voice of San Diego has all of our videos, including now our shows. So if you want to put it on while you're making some risotto or, whatever you're doing to prepare for the weekend, maybe you're vacuuming, put it on. You can look over and see Jacob, see me, see Andrea.
That's exactly what they want. Not just to hear us, but to see us.
Yeah, exactly. Got to look better now.
Yeah, I know.
We're going to go shopping and for some better lights in here.
You can see that at YouTube/Voice of San Diego. So this happens sometimes in sports media, especially. There's like a breaking news. They get it up, everybody talks about it, and then it updates a little bit more clearly throughout the day. Happens a lot in normal news too.
That's breaking news.
Yeah. So Wednesday news broke, and the UT and New York Times were all over it, about Sheel Seidler, the widow of Peter Seidler, the former, of course, principal owner of the Padres. When he died, she had, the trust was set up for her and her family to benefit, but she wasn't in charge of that trust, and the trust holds a big stake of the Padres. And so his brothers ended up taking over the management of that trust, and she sued them. And it was a very tough thing to see. You could tell, there's a lot of animosity, a lot of bad feelings. And I'm sure, I knew Peter. He would be horrified to have seen that play out after, after his death. And so there was a fight. She wanted to, she felt like she should be named the control person of the Padres, and that they were mishandling, if not stealing her money. And she sued them and said, that should be mine. The UT said that this week, though, she filed to dismiss most of her claims, not all of her claims. And then they updated throughout the day, and it became clearer that a lot of the remaining, or two main claims that remain, are not insignificant. As the UT put it, her claim that the trustees have failed to allocate the trust and that she has not received all the income she is due are still in effect. So the initial news that she had settled her claims really touched off this firestorm of speculation that she was settling this so that they could pave the way for a sale of the team. It's well known that the team is for sale, and that maybe this was a condition of the offer. Hey, we'll buy this team for $2.5–3 billion, but you better settle this lawsuit. And then as this became clear, there's still some pretty significant points of contention. Maybe that will die down a little bit, because I don't know if they can settle those, or if it makes it clearer, if what they settled is enough to make the sale possible. But there are two sort of groups of people that are named as possible buyers. Joe Lacob, who owns the Golden State Warriors, a basketball team. He has long wanted a baseball team, and he's in the mix, and he keeps getting mentioned. Apparently, he visited the stadium last week, which might be why there were a bunch of Padres in town. They played some sports on Mission Beach. Yeah, on the little South Mission Beach. They were like throwing kettlebells around and stuff, which, by the way, like launching a kettlebell 20 feet in the air seems like unwise.
Yeah, are you allowed, like when you play a professional sport, are you allowed to play a crazy sport where you could get hurt?
Well, yeah,
doesn't
like
seem very smart.
Joe Musgrove famously broke his foot or toe with a kettlebell. It's like, don't throw giant kettlebells around. But they did, and it looked fun. I wish I would have been hanging out, playing, working out. I probably could have hung with them. I don't know. But he was in town. And then there's another couple people being mentioned. Sportico, which covers the business of sports, reported that 2 billionaires who own soccer franchises or soccer teams and clubs in Europe are in the mix. Dan Friedkin, who has a stake in Roma, the soccer team, and then Jose Feliciano, who's a backer of Chelsea, are both interested in it. Now, are they really like in the mix, or do they just want reporters to think they're in the mix, or they want people to know that this shouldn't be a settled deal yet? That's probably what's going on. But we're all on the edge of our seats to see who's going to guide this franchise to its promised land.
Do you think that we would be able to inject ourselves in this conversation, like contact New York Times and say,
I kind of like
San Diego is interested in
I kind of like the idea of like being in the mix.
Yeah, like crowdsource. I bet we could raise $1 million.
Is it our time to own a baseball team?
Only need
more?
Billions more.
Okay.
Thousands of millions more. But we could give it a college try.
Sure.
What does the sale of the team mean for San Diego?
Well, I think what's interesting, the last, when Peter Seidler was alive, he clearly had some inkling that maybe he wouldn't be alive for long, and he
As we all do.
He YOLO'd. He was just like, all right, let's go. Let's get the best players possible. Let's win the World Series. And let's solve homelessness. Like, he just wanted to live, as great as he could for a few years, which made him just absolutely beloved.
Sure.
And then he died, and everybody's like, oh, what do we do now? We don't have the wherewithal to keep that sort of level of investment going. And so now the question is, will they get an owner who's just scraping by, who's, just like trying to keep the balance sheet working and maybe, come out ahead a little bit, which would suck because our coming out ahead a little bit is nowhere near what like New York or Los Angeles or whatever can do. Or is it going to be somebody like Lacob, who just has mountains of money and can come in and like help invest in that same, maybe not that same rate that Seidler was going, but like pretty strong rate. Now, the thing, a lot of people always say like, oh, we can't afford what he was doing. He was spending too much. Let me just be absolutely clear. They have no idea. Nobody has any idea whether what he was spending was unsustainable or not. Like, were they getting enough in revenue and other things? Was it balancing out? Nobody has a clue exactly what their finances are. It's like a black box of, it's not public information. And so, they always speculate, oh, he had these debts or he had these things. Nobody has a clue. And so it could be that his investment actually paid off. Like, they were making more money than they were paying off. Or it could be that he was losing, terribly. And, nobody has any idea. So if you ever hear somebody say like, oh, they're spending too much, they can't handle it, or they're definitely making money, they have no idea. Nobody has any idea except for the owners of Major League Baseball sports teams. And they're just not. They're obviously not talking.
It's such an interesting dynamic. I mean, if the frankly horrifying layoffs at the Washington Post are any indication, you kind of want like a a billionaire, but not necessarily a mega billionaire? You want somebody who's like genuinely interested in the lifestyle as opposed to just owning some random thing?
Okay, I have a take on this.
Uh-oh.
I have watched a lot of billionaires or near billionaires buy newspapers now. We've seen Patrick Soon-Shin buy the UT and the LA Times, the Huntsman family purchasing the Salt Lake Tribune, Bezos buying the Washington Post, and all these. And I got like, here's the core take: they all think that owning a newspaper is gonna be fun and rad and like really like exciting. Like you get to influence the country and the region, and then they get in and they have to meet with journalists.
They're like.
And they're like,
oh my God, these people won't stop asking me questions.
Yeah. And they're like, they have their first few meetings with journalists and they're like, this is a bad decision. And they all go through that same pattern where they're like, they try to make a couple of things happen. They try to really influence something and they get they get kicked back. And then they're just like, this is no fun. Mm-hmm. I don't have anywhere near the influence I thought I would. These people don't listen to me. They're hard to manage. And like, I don't like it. I don't enjoy doing this.
Yeah.
So Manchester had the UT. Remember, he thought he was going to run the city, and he couldn't do anything. He tried to build all these stadiums and stuff. He couldn't do anything. Mm-hmm. And they overwhelmingly all he was getting was a bunch of crap from people like me. He was just getting like all this pushback from, one of the greatest things Jeff Light ever did, the former editor, was just sort of like stand up to him at the most important points, but also like try to give here and there. He just managed that really well, but it turned out to not be fun, and he got rid of it as soon as he could. Patrick Soon-Shin buys the LA Times and the UT, and he's like, this sucks. He clearly does not enjoy it. And like Bezos, like in the Post, like he clearly does not enjoy it. He tried to do a little bit. He got, kicked back hard, and he's like, fine, I don't want to deal with it. It's not that they're not willing to spend the money. It's just a lot more fun to own a sports team and lose your ass doing that.
Sure.
Than to lose your ass doing something that people still hate you along the way.
Buying a newspaper and thinking that it's going to be just so much fun is kind of the mark of a deeply naive person, though. I mean, journalists are famously not the obsequious kind, famously ask far too many questions for people in power. I mean, it is bonkers to me that somebody would buy it just to think that
now think about it. Like, everybody always has naive impressions of what another profession is like. Like, they're like, graphic design would be easy. Like, or, like it always happens. And especially these billionaires who have like had outrageous success or think they have. And they're just like, well, I'll just go and, I'll just be myself, and they'll see the greatness and do cool things. And then they get there and it's just like, it's a hard business problem to solve. First of all, they all think they have like this perfect answer. And then they get in there and they're like, oh, wow, this like business challenge that has like, paralyzed hundreds and thousands of people for decades now, I'm going to figure out. And then they figure out it's like really hard. I think it's just, it is naivete at the highest level.
So that perception versus reality, it kind of is like a pivot on Lucille Bluth's like, how much could a banana cost, Michael?
Exactly, yeah. They just think, and so I think, because I saw that comparison come up, like, oh, like Bezos could, he wants to buy a sports team, or, like people lose hundreds of millions of dollars a year on sports teams. Yeah, like buying baseball players for a community that's just going to love you for doing that, and then going everywhere in the community and having everybody want to take their picture with you, that's a lot cooler than just a bunch of like,
journalists.
Like a bunch of sour journalists being like, yeah, thanks, man. Like, what corrupt thing are you doing this week, Right.
Journalists. Breaking souls since day one.
Well, let's get to Deborah's question. So she had a great question. Like we had been reporting about the crackdown on RVs and campers in the Mission Bay area, right? It's a great place to camp, even though it's not a campground. And so the city was like, look, you cannot camp here. And we have this place you can go. Now they have hit back and filed a court complaint saying like, look, this violates our settlement. You can't make us go to a place that kicks us out every day.
Right.
And so Deborah asked, well, why do they kick them out every day? Why can't they just stay in the safe parking lot in H Barracks? And so Mariana looked into it.
Yeah, and we had some vague idea. We knew that it had something to do with the permit that allows them to operate at H Barracks. But it's two things. So one thing is, they do have a permit from the California Coastal Commission that only allows them to operate between 6 p.m. to 7 a.m. So people who live in RVs or in their vehicles can come in at those times, be there, and then they got to leave in the morning. But the big thing that we got was a city spokesperson confirmed to us that having people stay at this lot for 24 hours is not the goal of the lot. It's not the intent of the lot. The intent is for them to have a place to park and, have a place to sleep, frankly, and then go off and, go get services that you need to get out of your homelessness, go to school, go to work. So they don't want them there.
Yeah. I mean, and that was what we talked about too. Like clearly they didn't want to provide the services and the a nightly thing versus an all day 24/7 thing is a lot different service level. And they clearly just didn't want to. But he clarified, simply staying on site 24/7 is not the goal of the program. We want them to go and figure their thing out. Yeah. And so that's the heart of the contention, because they say, well, we can't afford the gas to do that. And thus it's not a reasonable place to go. But on the other hand, so you just get to park in one of the most picturesque places in the world forever, until this perfect thing that you accept is enough for you. That's the battle going on. Yeah,
it's really fascinating. I mean, do you guys remember a long time ago, Lisa did a story on a family that had become homeless, the Rashke family, and when she tagged along with them and the photojournalist as well, it was really interesting to understand that sort of chaos that goes in between those hours where you can't be at a lot. So, having to pick up the children and where to cook dinner for them and making sure you can find somewhere to park so they can play for a little bit. It is really interesting, all the different layers that people have to go through when they're experiencing this. The city does have 2 lots that are open for 24 hours, but this one is not. So.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Rashke family is a perfect example. That's a family that lost everything all the way down to their vehicle, and that was the last rung. After that, it's their lives are lost. They're getting back on track after you fall off that last rung of the ladder, it would be just brutal. And they cling. They were able to climb back up, get spots, and now she's an advocate for people in that same situation. And so it's a really difficult. You want to make sure people like that don't fall off the ladder.
Right.
But, does that mean they just get to stay,
right,
on this public land forever? So,
right. And we talk about this with city officials too, right? They say, well, we're offering this shelter, but, people say they don't want it because they can't bring their dog, or they don't like the food, or or this. And it's well, we can't offer a perfect place for everybody's needs either. So it's an interesting dynamic, I think.
If you have a question like Deborah did and would like us to answer it, we created a website or an email to handle that. podcast@vosd.org. That's podcast@vosd.org. Send it in, and we'll see if we can answer it. All right, I tease this a little bit. Let's follow through. You looked through the Epstein Files, and you did find one prominent San Diegan mentioned quite often. What did you find?
Yeah, so there are some San Diegans mentioned quite a bit. San Diego itself is mentioned quite a bit. La Jolla. Epstein seemed to have particularly enjoyed La Jolla.
Loved La Jolla, huh?
Yeah, in one memorable email, he wrote that one of the reasons he loved La Jolla was, it was, quote, great intellectual community, motherfucker.
Oh.
Yeah. So he had an appreciation, and that is also partly of where...
What a weird way to put it.
Nothing to do with the beaches or the beautiful homes.
Maybe we should get in touch with the secession people and say that maybe that's a motto idea for them.
I like it. Okay.
One of the people that he contacted more than many others was actually for a time based out of La Jolla at UCSD, and that was Deepak Chopra, the kind of famed New Age practitioner, yogi.
Yeah, doctor turned into spiritualist, turned into, we can fix your mind and body.
He's kind of like the platonic ideal of a TED Talk person.
Yeah.
But he and Epstein exchanged many text messages, many emails. He appears thousands of times in the files in all sorts of, ways, kind of small and large. Their conversations often kind of vacillated between the sort of unbearably heady and the more lurid, maybe is a word for it. They speak often about transcendence, but then also there are many emails in which they refer to girls. Deepak kind of lets him know how pretty girls are in Israel and in Saudi Arabia. Jeffrey Epstein offers at one point to send 2 girls to a conference that Deepak is doing in New York City. Deepak accepts. So there are a lot of connections here. We laid it all out in a piece. I'd seen some stuff about this going around, but we wanted to do something a little more unified that dug a little bit deeper. It is a very, very interesting tranche of emails, and I will say, obviously, appearing in these documents and having these sorts of communications with Jeffrey Epstein do not indicate for sure that there is any sort of wrongdoing. But they do paint a very different picture of the one that Deepak represents himself as in public. And there are some very, very odd exchanges here. In one, Jeffrey Epstein describes picking up a girl on the street that he met 2 weeks ago. And Chopra asks, "Amazing, how did you pick her up?" And in one series of emails that kind of encapsulates this really odd mixture of how they talked, both in this heady thing and this more kind of grounded physical element. Epstein emails Deepak, "Does a cell have form? Is a cell aware? Does it have emotion? Does it perform actions? Did you find me a cute Israeli?" Chopra responds, "Cells are human constructs. No such thing. Universe is human construct. No such thing. Cute girls are aware when they make noises." Epstein responds, "Thank God." Chopra responds, "God is a construct. Cute girls are real." Epstein responds, "So when the girl says, 'Oh my God'?" Chopra responds, "Yes, that's divine transcendence." And Epstein responds, "Oh, I thought she was just referring to me." So there are some very, very strange interactions that, again, don't necessarily indicate confirmation of wrongdoing, but are very, very weird. We reached out to Deepak. He did not respond, though he did post a sort of broad response to these emails in these files on social media, saying that he regrets them and that they reflect poorly on him. We also reached out to UCSD where he was employed as a professor and which partnered on many of these ventures with him, and they have not responded.
Thank you. I'm proud of Lisa Halverstadt this week. She
hustled.
She did. She did some just good reporting. She talked to dozens of people, pulled together a scoop. And turns out that County Supervisor Tara Lawson-Remer has been talking and floating an idea along with the Center on Policy Initiatives and others to radically, I think, reform how county is governed, how the County of San Diego is governed. We've seen this in the past. The city of San Diego, of course, in 2004 voted on converting the city manager form of government to the strong mayor form of government, and then later added city council seats and changed how things work. We've seen it over the years. It happens. In 2010, the largest union of county employees pushed forward, after years and years of agitating and effort, a ballot measure to put term limits on supervisors. And it was very explicit that there were all these Republican supervisors, 5 Republican supervisors who had been in power since the mid-90s, and they needed to move on. And that they had literally concluded the only way, they were never going to beat them because nobody knows what the county does. So once you're an incumbent, like, you just stayed. And so they needed to put term limits in. They successfully put it in, and then it worked. And by 2 terms later, the Republicans are leaving, and the Democrats gain a majority. Finally solidified the majority last year, right? Well, now they're in the majority, and they're like, how about these term limits? Maybe they're not the best.
Hey,
right?
guys, I think we don't have enough time to do the things we want to do.
Now, let's just dial back for a second. I am actually opposed to term limits. I actually think
wow.
I think you should learn how to do the job and then, do it well because you need to get good at it. Now, maybe they should put like a ceiling, like some of these dudes in Congress, like, come on now, you can't just stay. Like maybe a term, like a long term, like 30 years or something. It should be like, but you can't be like in there when you literally can't think or whatever. But I think it's important for people to get good at those jobs. And it clearly takes them several years to build up the credibility and expertise to get anything done. And so I don't necessarily think, now a lot of people will be really mad about that. Term limits is the greatest thing. You got to force people out, all that stuff. You got to see new blood. But it is a little weird to see them, like this was such an important thing for them. And now to be like, well, now we're in charge, so we should dial it back. But there's more to it. They're very insistent, as Lisa discovered, that this is a much more comprehensive thing and could include, I think, an even bigger change, which is converting the chief administrative officer, the CAO, the manager of the county operations. Remember 2 years ago, it was a big deal who that was going to be. Converting that to an elected position, to a mayor. So we would have a County of San Diego mayor.
That is the strangest element of all of this. I mean, I think that there is some degree of a rationale for, longer term limits. Obviously, the hilariousness here is that Dems pushed for it, and as soon as it was convenient for them, they're like, "I don't want to play with you anymore. We're getting rid of this." But
it's just rare enough that when you see the like pure cynicism of politics like come out like that, it's just like, oh, okay, that's something.
Well, currently they serve 2 4-year terms,
yes.
right? Okay, so at least they could be in there for 8 years,
right?
So the elected basically mayor of San Diego County just seems like it seems so strange. Right now, Ebony Shelton, who is the CAO, has worked there for many years, is a professional manager. It seems so strange that you would want to replace somebody like that with an elected official. I mean, and obviously, the ideal for this sort of government is that there is a professional, competent manager there who is overseeing this vast sort of county bureaucracy. But again, replacing it with an elected official, I don't know that we have ever been proven that they do their job better than like a more nonpartisan manager.
All right. I can explain. I think.
All right. Let's hear it.
Very excited about this.
I saw your face, yeah.
So
as soon as I started talking, you just saw his eyes light up.
They're like sparkling.
So let's go back in history. So 30 years ago, so it's the mid-90s, early 90s, and the county of San Diego is in like dire financial situation. Like they are talking seriously about bankruptcy. The county hires a new chief administrative officer named Larry Pryor, and he begins this like effort to reform the spending, but just how it works. So the county supervisors used to have these fiefdoms where they could like literally influence the operations of the system. He says, no, you can't do that anymore. To make you feel better about that, I'm going to give you each a little slush fund. You might have heard about this slush fund that county supervisors have, right? That's where that originated. He did a lot of things to save the county. And then after that, they put in this like technocrat style system where he left. Eventually, Walt Eckard came in. He was known as this like incredible like manager of people and operations. And he set that standard of like, we're just going to be a good operating bureaucracy. And underneath all that is the idea that the county of San Diego is just an arm of the state and federal government. All it does, not all, but most of what it does is just operate efficiently by handing out the programs and services and managing the services that the federal government and the state government mandate, right? And so it just needs to work well. Now, there's a bunch of things, local air quality, land use on local issues, the sheriff's budget, stuff like that, where they have discretion. But most of what they do is just manage that system well. And so that's what that put in motion. So his successor was Helen Robbins Meyer, who had grown up in that same system, also this like technocrat. Well, they decide after they put in motion this term limits thing that the Democrats are going to take over, they decide, no. It's time to change county government to be a progressive engine. It needs to be a progressive machine. And so that's what the debate was. Nora Vargas insisted on sort of the next step in this technocratic system with a more diverse, hire or perspectives, but same sort of idea, like they're just good managers. So Ebony Shelton is her pick, but there's this huge fight, right? Like they want the actual popular candidate for all the employees and the unions and stuff, and that's this woman from Santa Clara. And so there's this giant fight about it, and Nora Vargas ends up winning and getting her pick in, but then of course disappears. And so Ebony Shelton's now the chief, but that feeling is still there that the unions and the people who want this progressive machine deserve this popular manager. They don't deserve to have this like operations whiz. They deserve somebody who's going to optimize county government to deliver more money for employees, better social services, and just be an arm of this progressive, sort of machine they want to create. And so it makes sense to me that they kind of struggled with hiring that manager. So now they're just like, well, it might be easier to actually elect that person because the unions and everybody could fund the campaign to get that person into that office, and then they have what they wanted, and they might actually have more control than they would if they handed over to the supervisors to do. So that's what makes sense to me.
It is, again, just a nakedly political move.
Extremely, like, just straight, like, very... Now, they'll say, look, having an elected leader is more transparent. They're going to have to be, accountable to us. But that was, like you said, the argument of the strong mayor form of government. And I don't know that there's anyone, except for Todd Gloria himself, maybe, who, like, has a very, like, vocal defense of the strong mayor form of government at this point. So I don't know if that's like the best model. And if it gets framed that way, I think it's doomed. But if they can frame it as like, oh, this is going to be like a lot more responsive, a lot more progressive, then it might have a chance. I don't know. But that's clearly what they're doing is like, and I think they probably want to get rid of some of the elected offices as well, like assessor and, treasurer. If they get in a mayor, then you don't have to have some of those maybe. I don't know. Stuff like that could be really interesting to watch.
Subtract by adding.
I think like they want the public to be able to influence the county. And the county's been this like I said, this operations sort of, hidden, nobody understands what it is. They want to transform it into something that has to deal with people a lot more. And I don't know.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously it's far too early to handicap this race, but who are you calling for the first San Diego County mayor?
Tara wants to do it for sure. Okay. I don't know that. I have no reporting, and she just said nothing. But I think that's part of like, I think the cynical look at this isn't that she wants to extend her term. It's that she wants that job.
Do you think that Gloria is enjoying being mayor enough to want to move up to county mayor?
Would that be an up?
I mean,
I feel like
that would be a down. Think about how like.
But I feel like generally people judge these positions by how many votes you have to get to win them, right?
Yeah, it's a bigger operation, a bigger area for sure. Now, I don't know. I don't know how that works out. You see it in other places like Utah, Salt Lake City, the Salt Lake County have a mayor. I think the same thing in like South Florida, right? There, Miami-Dade County mayor versus like the Miami mayor or whatever. I
feel like for ease of understanding, we have to give it a different name.
Yeah.
No.
Like county
they're called mayors?
County mayor. Yeah, they're called mayor. And that's what like confuses people because they'll have like one of them will take like a stand on something and they'll be like Salt Lake City's mayor wants, X, and it's really like no, that's the quasi like fake, conservative mayor. The real mayor does this or whatever. It's always that way. Yeah.
No, we got to fix that.
Then we have to be like San Diego. Then we'd have to say like City of San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria and San Diego County Mayor blah blah blah.
That's silly. We need to change it. Chancellor. I don't know what else.
Chancellor.
Principe.
Your Highness.
Well, we'll see. So I think there's murmurs that they want to get this on the ballot in June. So this might fire up quick. and again, would have major impacts on how the county's operating.
And we're your best source on this.
Yeah,
we're like the nerds to unpack this.
Again, very pleased with the effort Lisa put in. She heard about this. She kept calling. Finally was able to put what we'd call a minimally viable story together, and it worked.
Chairman?
Chairman.
Chair. Maybe. Secretary?
No.
Secretary has... It's such a great name because it have so much more power than you realize.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like Stalin was the secretary, right?
Yep.
Well, there's a race happening in the San Diego Unified School District. So we have 5 school board members. It's the largest school district in the county of San Diego. And one of them along the coast, Cody Pedersen, has decided he doesn't want to run again, not for term limit reasons. He's not into it.
Well, he really likes the job. He told me at least, but it doesn't pay very well, and he has a family to support, so he's looking for something permanent.
Yeah, so they had to find somebody else, and they got one, and he immediately, I think before he even ran, got the endorsement, right, of the teachers union.
Yeah, so I don't know that he announced publicly that he was running, but he was endorsed by San Diego Education Association, the San Diego Unified Teachers Union, back in September, which is quite early for a primary that does not take place until June. Again,
who is this? Let's tell him.
Yeah, so this is a guy named Hayden Gore. Actually, I know Gore well because right around when I first started covering education, High Tech High was going through their unionization process, and Gore was the president of the union at that time. So it is not a surprise that the teachers union would endorse somebody like Gore. As I wrote in my newsletter, it's kind of hard to imagine somebody who checks the kind of boxes that Gore checks. He's a veteran educator. He's a very vocal progressive. He's a former union president who unionized a chain of charter schools. I mean, it's absolute catnip for the union. Mm-hmm. And so talking to some of the folks at the union, Kyle Weinberg, that union's president, said that when Cody announced he was not going to run, they decided to kind of speed up their endorsement process, speed up their recruitment process, and reached out to Hayden and asked him if he was interested, and that he said yes, and they were very excited.
Fascinating. So he's going to be a real thorn in the union side then, real difficult one for them to negotiate with.
I imagine not. I think they're aligned on pretty much every major issue. I mean, we'll see if there are as many.
It'll be interesting, right? Somebody from that perspective, because part of the point of charter schools was for them to like try different things and then expand what they learn to the rest of the community. So nobody better situated to sort of have that conversation than him.
Mm-hmm. And by all accounts, he is a very effective educator. I went to a campaign launch party this past weekend. One of the people who spoke was a student the mother of a student of his who just kind of gushed about his ability to spark interest in kids and get them excited about learning. So I think, and based on my reading, he's a very genuine guy. I'll be curious to see exactly, how he looks on the board. It was interesting at that meeting. There was a lot said about, him being an educator. At one point, Richard Barrera said, Richard Barrera, San Diego Unified trustee, longtime trustee, said that it'll be great to have somebody who's coming to these board meetings straight from the classroom, which is just, again, an interesting perspective to have. But all that being said, as we know, every board member at San Diego Unified was, the union pick. They endorsed every single person who's won over the past, number of years. And so coming out of the gate as basically your first announcement that you're running with a union endorsement is essentially, opening the door for an election and kind of closing it right back up. And it is fascinating too. I mean, the union endorsed much, much, much earlier than they did last election cycle when they endorsed Pedersen and current trustee Shayna Hazen. During that election, I think they endorsed in like April. So this was many, many months before that.
Well, in about a month, we'll have Pedersen and Hazen in to talk about. We had them in a couple of years ago, and it was pretty good to we can listen back on that and then get some updates. Huh?
Yeah, they during that podcast they pledged to try and do a little small handful of things, and so we're gonna have to hold their feet to the fire and see if they actually did it.
Great, thanks, Jacob. Thanks for listening to the Voice of San Diego podcast, the most popular public affairs podcast recorded in Greater Little Italy in San Diego. If we were hypothetically to move out of this, block or two radius outside of Little Italy, would the radius of Greater Little Italy go with us? That's the question. Just purely hypothetical. Let me know what you think. Again, we are the most popular public affairs podcast recorded in Greater Little Italy in San Diego, and wondering about the radius of Greater Little Italy. Should we move? Just curious. I'm Scott Lewis, the CEO and editor-in-chief at Voice San Diego. Bella Ross, our social media producer. Jakob McWhinney is our education reporter. And Andrea Sanchez Villafana is our managing editor. Matt Scravy is the producer of the show. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.